In this video, we're going to be focusing on the effects of placing a structure to delay a Protoss' second base in the TVP matchup. Is an engineering bay the best choice? Should you destroy the engineering bay in your natural? While an answer to these questions can branch off in many different ways, we're keeping this video strictly with an economic focus. Starting with the Terran side of things, this faction by far has the largest arsenal of structures to choose from in the early game after building the first supply depot. In TVP matches, many people have watched pro games such as Beyond vs. Est. In this short clip, I'm reacting to a video made by Winter Starcraft. You can check out his channel in the link below.
It looked like Beyond wanted a proxy Rex, and he may still do so. But then the probe came and he kind of slapped down a Rex, which honestly was a little suspicious. And, okay, so it is an engineering bay block. I wonder if Zest counted the SCVs. Yes, it is possible. No, it isn't easy or reliable. And if he sees this, what does he do? Remember, get your bingo cards out. So now Zest will come down the ramp and scout. Well, not the most unexpected thing, but definitely he's just going to take the third. Yeah. Undeterred. Only a second of hesitation. Wow.
After watching this clip with Beyond and Zest, you might wonder who is actually winning in this scenario. In this chart, we have the cost, hit points, and the cost per hit point by dividing the cost by the amount of hit points. Right off the bat, this information tells us that the engineering bay provides the best value for hit points given. But wait, there's more. We can't forget to include the build time. For every second of construction time is an opportunity cost of lost mining time. From my last video, we'll take an average of the average main base income. This is roughly 0.93 minerals per second. With the expense of construction time added in, we're getting closer to a more accurate result. Moving on to the final calculation, we must also remember that the cost of the structure is only 25% due to the cancel. With that, we have our final numbers, and the command center slightly overtakes the supply depot in value. Before we can determine who did better economically between the exchange of Beyond and Zest, we need to lay out the defensive options and costs of the Protoss. Because I know little about Protoss, I dove into the latter on purpose just to see how different Protoss would react to a structure in their natural. In this first clip, we have a Diamond 1 Protoss. This game is pretty ordinary so far. Derp is doing the usual Protoss thing of scouting and harassing. It's not until a minute 54 that Derp pans back to his natural to build a nexus. But behold, a supply depot. Reacting quickly, Derp decides to build his second base in the third base location, which is placed at 203. With this information, let's calculate the cost of Derp expanding to his third rather than his natural. This chart shows us the time it takes for a worker trained from the Nexus to reach the nearest mineral patch of each base. To find the true value of the opportunity cost, we subtract the time it takes for a probe to reach the third and fourth base from the natural time. This opportunity cost has a linear growth rate until the third nexus is built in the natural. Here is yet another cool chart revealing that linear growth. Each game is different, but in the replays I have, this cost would affect 11 to 12 probes. In Derp's case, this cost applies to 12 probes. With all this information, we can conclude the total expense to Derp based off of his decision is approximately 65 minerals. Meanwhile, the total expense of the cancelled supply depot is approximately 45 minerals. These calculations do not include the opportunity cost of the scouting probe or scouting SCV. While the Terran does come ahead by 20 minerals in this situation, the Protoss still has an economic advantage for 3 minutes and 25 seconds before breaking even. This next replay is my favorite, a Master 1 Protoss. Hades opens up a bit differently without scouting. However, he does search extensively with one probe for any proxies in close proximity to his main base. A probe heads down the ramp at the 1 minute 30 mark. Without even half a second of hesitation, he instantly expands to his third. I feel like he's been in this situation before. In total, 11 probes from the main base were sent to the third. As we can see in our chart, Hades' smooth response resulted in a slightly smaller expense of 60 minerals. The supply depot cancel once again results in a cost of 45 minerals. This final replay is very different with yet another Master 1 Protoss. With a normal opening, Tipu sends a scouting probe across the map. At around a minute 25, a probe heads down the ramp to build a second pylon. But with a slight change in plans, Tipu then uses this probe to attack the offending SCV building the supply depot. At the same time, he immediately pulls 3 probes from his main base to remove the depot. The 4th probe gives up the futile chase of the SCV and returns home to build the second pylon, and to help the 3 other probes. At 2:07, Tipu slaps down his Nexus in the natural. Calculating Tipu's defense will be a bit different than the other 2 replays, as it is a direct cost rather than an indirect one. With the 3 probes being pulled, it is 8 seconds to reach the supply depot, and then another 8 seconds to return to the main base. Secondly, the supply depot takes 23 seconds to be cancelled from the starting attack time. In total, this works out to an expense of approximately 130 minerals. Subtracting the 45 mineral expense for the supply depot, the Terran comes ahead by 85 minerals immediately. So after all that, we come back to the Bion vs Zest game. Bion placed an engineering bay which resulted in a cancellation expense of 55 minerals. Zest, however, chose to expand to his 4th base. Looking at our chart from earlier, we know that expanding to the 4th base is slightly more costly in the short run over expanding to the 3rd. I do not have the replay, but let's be conservative and say that Zest trained 10 probes from his main base to get to his 2nd. With that, we can now rank all 4 replays in economic order. You might be wondering why a supply depot was used in my replays instead of the engineering bay. The answer would be that while the engineering bay does provide better value per hit point, the supply depot is 25 minerals cheaper up front, allowing for a slightly faster 2nd base. The supply depot is also much better value over the engineering bay if an opponent were to choose to ignore it. Lastly, in some matchups, the SCV will have to abandon construction of the engineering bay early, whereas this is slightly less likely with the supply depot. As for the Protoss reaction to this strategy, hands down I think the Hades replay by expanding to the 3rd base location always results in the lowest expense. Our other Protoss Derp did pretty good too. If any of you Protoss players out there have any reasons why it's worth pulling probes to expand to the natural, or to expand to the 4th base instead of the 3rd, please let us know in the comments below. Everyone likes improving at the game, so I'll let my buddy Fairy fill you in.
So you want to be the best, yet another loss. Listen and you'll be test. You're a lost cause.
If this video gets over 100 likes, Fairy and I will do a full parody of the Pokemon theme song. Please don't do it. I don't want to. Thanks for watching.